Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 112.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, sports fans, welcome one more time to the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I am excited to be here again. Yes, I know you're tired of me saying I'm excited, but what can I do? I am. When you get to live closer to your values and that which you value, you tend to be more excited every day because you get to do the things that you like doing, the things that you enjoy doing, and most importantly, you have fun doing it. So, today's guest is going to be absolutely no different in that way. I bet you're going to see, if you haven't already read the short description of the title, you probably already figured out that today's guest has to have a passion for what she does. And what's important, she's going to share her passion with you and I in such a way that I believe you may become more passionate about it too. Today's guest is Wardee Harmon. She lives in Oregon with her dear family, where they garden and raise small livestock. Now, right there, how many people do you know raise anything other than trouble, right? She's passionate about traditional cooking, which I think we want to get her definition on. And she writes books and teaches online classes in the fundamentals of traditional cooking: sourdough, cultured dairy, cheese making, fermentation, kids cooking, dehydrating, and more. I love the United States because we can create cash flow in many, many different ways. So help me welcome Miss Wardee Harmon. Wardee, you there?
I sure am. Thanks, Jermaine.
Yes. So you just let the cat out of the bag. You just told them, my name is actually Jermaine, people. And now they know. It's all good. Let me ask you this. Small livestock?
I wasn't supposed to say that.
Oh, it's okay. It's fine. They know now, and now we're going to get questions. Let me tell them right now. The reason I go by Jay, guys, is because most of you can't remember Jermaine. Now, if you can remember Jermaine, that's completely fine. I'm fine with it. It's all good. So help me understand something. You raise small livestock. Where did that come from?
Sure, I'd be happy to fill in the blanks there. Well, we love good food. So we have about 5.5 acres here, and we've raised a variety of animals over the years, from chickens and ducks to a dairy cow to sheep and goats. So we're not necessarily raising them all at the same time, but we have raised all of them, and they've provided food in the form of milk, eggs, or meat. So currently we have sheep and 1 goat.
Awesome. Okay. Well, so you got my attention when you said 5.5 acres. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is real estate, but no, this is a different way to use real estate. And you've come up with a creative way. Now, are you trying to tell me that if I want good food, because that's what you said, those were your words, are you saying the only way I can get good food today is to literally raise it myself?
Well, raise it yourself or raise it from someone you trust. Most of the food in the grocery store is, well, let's just talk about meat, milk, and eggs in particular. Unless it's organic, and sometimes those labels don't even tell you very much, then pretty much the meat, milk, and eggs comes from a feedlot situation where the animals aren't eating the best food for them, which translates into them being ill, and their food that we end up eating is not very good for us. It has the wrong kind of fats. It might have traces of pesticides and antibiotics and medicines. They're not on pasture, so they're not like eating rapidly growing green grass that really puts wonderful essential vitamins into their meat and milk. So yes, that is what I'm saying. I'm a huge proponent of natural food. In fact, my site is called Gnaufglins, which is an acronym. It stands for God's Natural Organic Whole Foods Grown Locally in Season. It's sort of the whole picture of the best kind of food. And that's what we love to do. And yes, I'm passionate about it.
Got it. Okay, so I love what you've done because you've taken a challenge, a problem, and a problem, honestly, that I don't think a lot of people even know about, or at least not enough people know about. And therefore, we're bringing light to that. But as an entrepreneur, occasionally that's what we have to do. We have to highlight the problem and then show the solution. And that's what you've done. And now, before you were an entrepreneur, and many of you know that I look at entrepreneurs like superheroes before we come in and save people from all the dangers that they don't even know exist. And we had an alter ego. We had a beginning. We have an origin story. So what I would really love to know is, how do you go from, hey, getting your food in the grocery store to, you know what, I can do a better job. Let me do this myself.
Sure. I've been thinking about this question because I know you tend to ask your guests this. So here's my answer. Well, my husband and I got married. This was about 17 years ago, a little more than 17. And we have 3 children. We had them early in our marriage, and they all had issues. Plus, we did too. We didn't feel well. Environmental allergies, food allergies, eczema. And we love God. We want to embrace his design. And there's a link between the world he's created, the food it provides, and the nourishment that it gives to our bodies. And so early on, we clearly knew that that was worth investigating. Like, what is food? And with our health issues, we just felt strongly that food was a key part to that. And so that began our journey into the investigation of what does God want us to eat, and then seeing that conventional food is pretty much all about making money, bottom line, not nutritious, and many times poison, and that the symptoms we experience are just scratching the surface of what is this systemic, society-wide problem of illness. I mean, people are far more sick than we ever were with diabetes and cancer and heart disease. And pretty much all of it can be tied to our food system, which is very conventional, profit motivated. So our personal journey was reversing our own health issues through embracing what we call traditional cooking methods. You not only source high quality whole foods, but you prepare them in methods that ancient cultures did. That was slower and more intentional, and really made foods highly digestible and nutritious. Some of those methods would be like culturing foods, like old homemade sour cream or homemade yogurt. That's a cultured food that's probiotic, and probiotic is a real buzz phrase these days because lots of people are tuning into the idea of improving gut health, especially since so many people tend to use antibiotics, which destroys beneficial organisms. So, your doctor might say, you need to do this course of antibiotics, and oh, by the way, have some yogurt every day. Well, yogurt helps repopulate your body because antibiotics kill everything, good guys as well as the bad guys. So, anyway, that's just one symptom. Antibiotic use is a symptom, plus all these diseases that we have. And these simply were not a problem to the same degree that they are today before we have this conventional industrialized food system. So we were just felt it was the answer, and we tried traditional methods and whole foods, and our health improved. Our children don't have food sensitivities. I used to have debilitating seasonal allergies that I just simply do not have anymore. Our energy's better. We don't have issues with weight. Anyway, it was the answer for our family. And I began sharing what we were learning online through my blog, gnaufglins.com. Lots of people were interested. And I think in general, people are waking up to, their eyes are being opened. They're interested in answers. Why are we so sick? um, this can't be good for us. And they're interested in raising their children to have a better idea of where their food comes from. I mean, farmers markets, the interest in organic food is just a sign that people are waking up. And so one of those small niches in this idea of waking up to health food is this area of traditional cooking where you do things like cheese making and sourdough and old-fashioned fermentation, which makes like the best pickles and sauerkraut you could ever eat, and they're nothing like what's in the store. So there's this growing interest, and I wouldn't say we were ahead on the journey, but we were there at a good time sharing online, and there was a lot of interest. So I began teaching online about it. And that is what has turned into, in a nutshell, gnaufglins.com today, where I have a membership site where we just literally have hundreds of videos and step-by-step tutorials on all these traditional cooking methods. And a lot of our members are, there's people that are doing urban homesteading. There's people that are doing homesteading in the country. But no matter what, everyone is interested in sourcing foods, whether they grow it themselves or sourcing it from a local farmer, or even if it has to be shipped in from somewhere, from a company that really embraces healthfully grown, naturally processed, well done food. And so it's like a dream come true that this path we were on is also a path that others are on, and that we can help, we can teach and share.
Interesting. I mean, if here's the downside to all of you who are listening right now is you can't see the look of shock and awe on my face. I'm just like, wow. There's just so much that's going through my head. How do you even develop the confidence? Because here's one of the questions that I start thinking business-minded ideas is when you recognize a problem is to turn that into a business, which is really what you've done. Specifically, and I've said this before, if you can solve it for one person, then you can solve it for many, because after that, it's just an issue of scale. And there's nothing better than solving your quote unquote own problem, which is which is exactly what you've done. And I guess what I'm caught between, it's not that you're against necessarily someone making a profit. You're saying the profit at the expense of health is where you're drawing the line. Is that accurate?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think that most conventional food choices out there are poison, with the sugar and the salt and all the processed foods. And, I don't know what the percentage is. It's very high. It could be like 80% of processed foods have genetically modified corn. And that's really bad. There's just Google genetically modified corn downsides. Okay. So yeah, I'm not against people making a buck, but I am against sacrificing health. And I think that's what the big ag, big food companies have done. And we are all paying the price. I mean, maybe the food is cheap, but we pay the price. We don't feel good. We have doctor visits. We have chronic and rampant antibiotic usage. We have diseases. So yeah, I mean, I think it's poison, most of it.
Got it. I see. Okay, that's fine. That's perfect. So, and here's another way of reframing and thinking about that same thing. Remember, guys, you can choose good, you can choose fast, or you can choose cheap, but you should never sacrifice good. And what I hear you're saying is that we keep making the choice of fast and cheap at the expense of good. So I now have a question though. Because if and again, I'm just your normal person. I'm probably asking questions that other people are thinking. But because I was, my experience has been anything that has been quote unquote good for me tastes horribly. So we've got to help me with that. Help me. Come on, Wardee. I know you can help me.
Okay. Well, I can help you with that. And I can help you with something that you haven't asked yet. So the first thing is it tastes awesome. I mean, we're not talking low fat cardboard here. We're talking about whole fat milk and yogurt that tastes beautifully. I mean, the best cheese you could eat, the best bread slathered with butter, vegetables with, cheese and delicious sauces. The reason that health food has such a bad rap is because of all these other food myths that we've been living in the modern age. One of them is, fat is bad. So yeah, I mean, it tastes awesome. You should have my homemade ice cream. You should have my homemade cheese.
You are right. I should have your homemade ice cream and cheese. We're going to figure out how to get that, but let's keep going.
And so, taste is not an issue. Now, the second thing that you alluded to, which you didn't quite ask, which is because you said if it's cheap and easy, it might not be good. Well, what I'm talking about not only tastes amazing and is very good for you, but somehow along the line, people got the idea that doing things homemade and from scratch is hard, and it isn't. And that's part of the reason why I think we've achieved the success we have, is because we've been able to show people how easy it is and that you don't even have to sacrifice convenience. Now, I'm not talking about the convenience that's like you've got a box of microwave popcorn, you open a bag and pop it in the microwave and you hit the popcorn setting, so you don't even have to think about how much time it is. You totally walk away, it dings, it's done. Pour it in the bowl, eat it. Right. That's one kind of convenience.
Yes, and that's very convenient too.
It's very convenient. And of course, there's the cost to your health. The kind of convenience I'm talking about is you're already cooking anyway. A lot of these foods cook themselves. You're not slaving over the stove. You're like starting something to soak the night before and it's ready to cook the next day, and it cooks in half the time because it's been absorbing water since yesterday. Or I'm talking about popping popcorn with your kids right on the stove. My son and I make popcorn, and we use a healthy fat, coconut oil or palm oil, and we choose great popcorn, organic popcorn kernels, and it's very quick. It takes literally a few minutes, and we enjoy the process. We have fun together. We know where it came from, so it's quick. And I myself, before we came to where we are now, I totally bought into convenience. I was a new mom, and the SpaghettiOs and the Pop-Tarts were just like calling my name because of how easy they were.
No, you're going to take away my Pop-Tarts? Oh, come on.
Yeah. So, but what I realized was we feel so much better, and it's not hard or takes a long time to do what we're doing. And there's so many more benefits in it, from the way that our family cooks together, from the way that we know where our food comes from. We can believe in the person who grew it, or ourselves if we grew it ourselves. Our health is improved. So it's this big picture of delicious, healthy, and pretty darn easy.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Hey, I'm willing to get on any bandwagon, especially when you start telling me that there is an easy button that I can press. So it's completely fine. Now, help me understand how you go from just doing it for yourself, then gaining the confidence to, quote unquote, for all intents and purposes, take on the big boys and say, look, what we're doing is better. And you, general populace, everybody, you need to pay attention. How do you begin the inclinations of charging for this service and making this available to other people? And where did all that come from?
Sure. Well, one thing that happens when you start sharing, and I don't know if this is a thing with women or with everybody, but you have friends and you start talking about what you're doing and learning. And I always had this dream that I would be able to make money just doing what I loved. And I strayed from that path. I was a Mary Kay rep for a few years. When I was little, this is just a story from my growing up. I've always been crafty. And so very young, I crocheted and knitted, and I would chain stitch these long crochet strands. It's just a chain stitch. And I would try to sell them to everybody in the family as belts, and I figured out this pricing scheme, and it was like, I'm crocheting anyway. Do you want to buy a belt? Well, so when you start learning about food and it's so life-changing and your health has been transformed and you're talking about it with your friends, it's not a matter of confidence. It's a matter of, this is really cool. This is what it's done. And then people are interested. And that same thing happened when I was blogging about it. People would read, they would ask questions, they would ask for more information. It wasn't even a question of, do I have to be confident? It's like, I have the information And I know it can help you because it helped us. And so I blogged for a few years, just building up an audience, which to be honest was very small compared to what it is now. But it was enough to say, I'm going to teach an online class on this, and to get a great response, because people are hungry for the information. We're not the only ones who are dissatisfied with our health and our food system. There's more and more people all the time that are looking for answers.
Did you just say people are hungry for the information? Was that an intentional pun there? Okay, that's pretty cute. So
that was good, because no, I didn't intend that. I'm sure it's true. They're hungry.
Well, okay, so on that topic then, okay, so you're an entrepreneur, you're solving the problems as it relates to food, you're making these things happen. You're beginning to hit on some things that I think many entrepreneurs are concerned about, not just their food, but the size of their business, i.e., is there enough of a marketplace? Or do people really want what I have to offer? Will they pay for it? Can I create cash flow? Talk us through the process of how you came to the realization that all of those questions, the answers to all of those questions for you were actually, I can turn what I love to do, because that's another common misconception is if I love to do it, it doesn't make money. And if I don't love to do it, it makes a ton. So help us through that process for you and how you came to that realization.
Are you tired of letting good cash flow generating ideas go to waste? Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready to apply for a complimentary, yes, that means free, one-on-one breakthrough session. Take action now. Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready. Again, that's cashflowdiary.com/ready. Before we get back to today's episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, your host, Jay Massey, has some important insights to share with you.
Well, as you can tell, I'm learning all kinds of things these days in many different ways. Our guest today has done an incredible job of just blowing my mind, and hopefully she's doing that for you as well. And I will get you straight back to that. Just want to make sure that everybody knows two things. One, the audiobook has been finished. Audible is doing its final Q&A, and hopefully they will approve and everything will be fine, and you'll be able to send it out to all you guys who are already on that list. 949-682-3565. The keyword is audio, AUDIO, or cashflowdiary.com/audio. We'll be able to get it to you soon. It is coming, and I'm so glad to say that. Speaking of things that are upcoming, one of the things you want to know about, if you've ever had a desire to be involved in multifamily, or more importantly, would like me to walk you through that process, we are starting a brand new mastermind group solely focused on multifamily buildings. I've never been able to repeat any of my mastermind groups, and I've been working all year to get to the point to where I could actually execute this one. And now it is time. Go over to cashflowdiary.com/multifamily. You're going to get 3 1-hour webinars complimentary that'll give you the groundwork necessary to get your multifamily business off the ground. And you'll see the special offer that we have there for you if you so decide that you want to do it. Cashflowdiary.com/multifamily. Download the ebook, watch the webinars. I hope that you will give me the opportunity to serve you and work with you in a closer way. And just so you know, we got people that are also not just in the U.S. making this happen. So yes, it will work where you are. I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you. Well, can't work with all of you, but you that are on the fence, you the one thinking, does he mean me? Yeah, I'm talking about you. Anyway, let's get back to the interview.
Sure. Well, I think ideally, the way you make money should be something you love to do. And I don't really see how a person could sustain it if they didn't love it. So this was a good match. And my husband and I always talked about, the dream family business for us would be something that could piggyback on what we do. So, and this was so life-changing for us that at the time that I started teaching online, I was introduced to this concept, and it's a course, but I don't know if they sell it anymore. It's called Teaching Sells. And they were talking about how online courses are huge, or they're huge, but it was just at the beginning. And so they would train you to do it. Now, I didn't actually take the course. I consumed all the free materials. And then I just decided to do it myself. But that's where I went to my husband and I was like, this is it. I know this stuff and people don't know it and they're asking me for information. I want to teach this. I can do it. And they want it. So, and then at the same time, I was introduced to the concept of, and I might not be naming it correctly, but it's the idea of 1,000 true fans. You just need 1,000 true fans to build a viable business. I didn't have a number. It's not like I said, okay, these 1,000 people are true fans, but I knew the audience was big enough that it could very well go. And so we did have the cushion at the time that my husband had an outside job and, I was home with the kids and, stay-at-home mom. So there wasn't really a risk in trying it. And I tried it and it succeeded, like beyond anything, beyond even like my, like, I mean, I'll give you a couple numbers. Like I was thinking, I would just be awesome if like 50 to 100 people signed up, but I will even take 40, right? Well, more than 600 people signed up. So that's at least 6 times my minimum goal, which was not really even my minimum. My minimum was like 30 to 40 people would be interested. So it was just amazing. It really was. It was this great validation. And it was a validation of you don't need a huge audience because I really didn't. I think one key part of the strategy though was that in the niche that I blog, it's called real food. They're real food bloggers, but you can even niche down to traditional food bloggers. And nobody was doing it. Nobody had any product and we were friends. So I did have affiliates. So it wasn't just my audience, but I was very generous with affiliates and they pitched it to their readers and people just swarmed. It was just amazing.
Got it. So your distribution wasn't okay. That's an interesting way of attacking your distribution, and I totally agree with lots of that. Having it doesn't take a lot of people. That's interesting that you were able to do that because again, obviously, if you haven't guessed, this is not my area of expertise, and I'm like learning as I'm talking to you right now because there's this thing you're saying there's a delineation. There's a subject called real food, and then there's something called traditional food or traditional cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. And
well, I mean, there's so much. There's like internet marketing. There's mommy bloggers. There's health and fitness bloggers. There's finance bloggers. There's from scratch cooking bloggers. Well, the niche I was in, am still, is real food. But if you niche down even further, it's traditional cooking or traditional foods. And if you niche down a little further, I mean, our primary audience is Christian. So it's also faith-based people looking for answers for health and nutrition. And I think that's, from the very get-go, although, today I can clarify it and say, this is my target audience. I didn't really have it written out back then, but we knew. And so our kind of core values and who we were speaking to was just part of the language, and it really resonated with people.
Totally understood. Yeah. But you're bringing up another good point that I always like to make, and I just want to hear your take on it because you just said something I think is so key to so many people is that they haven't written their first offer, they haven't started their business. They're thinking, oh, I'm going to write all this stuff out. It sounds like to me you just started and quote unquote let the chips fall where they may.
Sort of. I mean, I was selling to somebody just like myself because I had been there where I didn't tell you this as part of my origin story, but we had all these health issues. I was introduced to the idea of traditional cooking and I was like, this is too overwhelming. It's too hard. It's going to take too much time. I'm not doing it. And I put it aside for a few years. And then it was like our health just kept getting worse. It was already restrictive and hard to avoid all these foods. I was like, I went to my husband. I was like, why don't we just try this? And he was like, yeah, let's try it. So my own experience was I'm overwhelmed. I need somebody to teach me step by step. Now, I didn't have the step by step person, but I had the feeling of overwhelm. So one of the big marketing messages I did that first go round, before my site turned into a membership site, it was just the one class. And the pitch was, are you overwhelmed? Because most people who are interested in traditional cooking are like, that's too overwhelming. I can't do that. And I show them that you can. And that was my pitch. This was somebody just like me 2 years before or 3 years before.
Got it. That makes sense. And again, guys, that's where the concept of investor identity comes from, is that when you're trying to provide a product or a service to anybody, start with yourself as the first person to try to serve and solve for, so that you can move on from there. So, help me understand, talk us through, you have the first class, you have a bigger response than you even could possibly imagine. I've got an interesting real estate question. Did you already have the 5.5 acres at this point? When did that come into play?
Yes, we did. We lived in our current home.
Oh, okay. Got
with
it.
our 5.5 acres. Yeah.
I was just wondering if you made the move so that you could have more space to actually raise you said goats is what you had sheep.
Yeah.
Sheep and goats.
Oh, yeah. We actually started with goats. I mean, we started eating this way ourselves. And one of the first things we did was like, well, there's nobody around us providing raw milk. So let's get some goats and milk them ourselves, So, and then 2 years later, or maybe not even that long, is when I started teaching how to use the raw milk, in your kitchen. And so we're not teaching how to raise the goats, at least not yet. We're teaching the cooking part. So it doesn't matter where you source it. We talk about quality ingredients and then the nutritious preparations. But yes, we were already here. We're already living the lifestyle. But it doesn't mean that everybody lives like we do. I mean, if you're in an apartment in the city, and a lot of our members are, they're going to the farmers markets and they've got a local farmer they know who's producing quality milk, raising grass-fed beef. They're sourcing it if they can't do it themselves. The important part is, what are you putting in your body? I shouldn't say the only important thing. Just what we're approaching right now currently is, what do you do with the whole food quality ingredients to prepare them before you put them in your body? How do you make these things?
Got it. Yeah, and you know what I love about this is that it's so foreign to me, but yet it feels familiar when you start talking about the problems and how you solve specific ones. Because I like the distinction you just made, is that we don't teach people how to raise the goats, and then you said yet, and I love that, because there goes a whole new product line. Because that's what I'm sitting here thinking. I'm like, how do I learn how to milk a goat? That's not like, a high school class I took. It's like, where does that come from? Is there a whole goat milking ebook somewhere? Anyway.
Oh, yeah, there are. I'm sure there are. The information is out there, believe me, because I had to learn it.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying, is that you've taken information that has traditionally been more challenging to obtain, more challenging to even find. I mean, oftentimes, if it's not easy for us to go find it, we quit. Even though it's something we could be passionate about. And what I admire about you and what you've done with your family is that you live very, very close to your values. And that's one of the things that gets me excited every morning. It's one of the things I am the most grateful for. I can only tell you how many times I prayed when I was working a traditional job. I hope to one day be able to have the opportunity to work closer to my values. And we get to do that today, which, I can relate from that aspect. And I'm just amazed of where you found the opportunity. That's probably I hope the biggest thing people are getting from this message is the opportunity is in front of you. It's there. It's somewhere. And it doesn't have to look like my opportunity, because what you do and what I do could not be any more different. But yet we're both able to go out there and create a business by solving other people's problems.
That is so true. And I mean, it takes you saying that, or my husband, or just a day off to just step back, because I mean, things are more complicated now than where they start, because we maintain a lot more content. We've got a team, we've got tons more people, support. And when you're in the day-to-day thick of it, at least don't realize what a dream come true this is, that something that I love is supporting our family. And not many people get to experience that. So it's just a blessing.
Agreed. And I was on stage probably a few months ago with John Assaraf, and one of the things that one of the participants came or said to me was, I never considered that I could do well and do good at the same time. And until she said that, I hadn't considered that that's what we were doing. But I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a great idea. Do well and do good. And you're doing the same thing, just in a completely different way, by helping people like myself. And I'm sure my wife is going to listen to this. And if not, someone who listens to this is going to email her saying, hey, you should listen to this one. Because you can grow up thinking that you can't do these things. We're so disconnected from the earth and the way the things that God intended when it was first created, that the idea of, you get your food at the grocery store. Why on earth would I ever, let me guess, have you raised chickens too? If you don't know. Of course you have.
Yeah.
Of course. So why on earth would I ever do that? I live in an apartment. They don't let me have pets, let alone a chicken. So, these are interesting concepts that you bring to us. So other than the farmer's market, then let me ask this question. Where could someone go to get their food if they don't have a farmer's market nearby? How do they do it? If they live in the city and they don't have a farmer's market, what are they going to do?
Sure. Well, I'm not 100% against grocery stores. And in fact, quite a few of them are developing because of the customers are asking for it. There are pastured, it's called grass-fed for some animals. It could be pastured for other animals. But the idea is the animals are raised in a natural environment. They're not fed antibiotics in their food. They're given a natural diet, pasture, and maybe some supplemental food. But anyway, people are asking for it. So a lot of grocery stores are actually catering to that, and they would have a natural food section. And it's not that I would go in and just automatically trust. I would still do some research into the farm and make sure it lines up with what I need. Another option is there are websites out there. One of them that comes to mind is called eatlocal.com. And you can put in your zip code and you'll get an output of farms and producers who have put their information in the database and what they offer. And there might be CSAs, which is community supported agriculture, where it's a farm that's raising things or acquiring things from high quality sources and like putting together a weekly box that could have just produce, could have fruit, could have meats, or a blend. There's also you pick farms where you can go pick your own fruits and vegetables. Farmers markets are listed, or just people that are raising backyard chickens. I mean, they might raise 100 or 200 pastured broilers a couple times a year, and they list it there, and then you can go in on it. So, and you might find grass-fed beef, pastured pork. It's growing. You could also just, like the traditional food movement, there's a nonprofit organization that really does a lot of work in this. It's called the Weston A. Price Foundation, named after a dentist who traveled the world and looked at traditional cultures and their diets and studied their health and found that they had virtually no disease, and kind of studied what they ate. And then they were unpolluted, for probably a good word, by modern diets. So anyway, this foundation is named after his work. He's passed on. He was back in the 30s. And they have a pamphlet they put out every year with good, better, and best choices of all kinds of foods. There are also chapters nationwide and even across the world. So on the website, westonaprice.org, somebody could go and find a local chapter in their area, contact the chapter leader, and they very often maintain a list of people in the area, whether it's a herd share for raw milk or lightly pasteurized milk, and people who raise all kinds of livestock or produce. So you could go to the health food store. Oftentimes they have a bulletin board, where people that have something for sale that would benefit others who are interested in natural foods, health foods, they might put up a listing there. People on Craigslist, there are listings for natural food on Craigslist. It's quite amazing. how much people have woken up and are networking around this and building little, communities within communities of people who know each other. And it's just a matter of finding the person or persons who knows, and they can be found. And then you can, a whole world of opportunities can open up.
Agreed. Because this is, I am being enlightened, and I can tell and I can hear why you have chosen to provide this content, because I can hear it. And I'm sitting here going, how many options could there possibly be outside of a grocery store? And I was just like, oh, so what you're saying is there's more.
Lots.
Got it. I hear you. So
now, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, because we actually have a great grocery store with a really good natural food section. So I go to the grocery store once a week. I just don't buy what most people are buying.
Got it. Yes, you're buying different stuff, because she's like, I got that at home. Literally, it's walking around outside. I fed it this morning myself. So totally understood. My question though is you began to highlight, I think, the challenge that many are having. So I want to make it a little bit easier for everyone listening to be able to find, because you said it's a matter of finding your entry point, finding that person or persons that have that network and that information, which clearly you have. So you got to share with us, for the newbies like myself, how do we get started? How do we find out more about this? What you call it? Traditional food movement? Because see, that was even a new term to me. How do we find out more? How do we get in contact with you? So that if we're interested in going down this path, we could use you as our guide.
Sure. And I would be thrilled and honored. My site is gnowfglins.com, which is GNOWFGLINS.com. As I said before, it's an acronym. Google does know it. If you just begin typing GN, it usually will auto-populate. An easy URL for you is traditionalcookingschool.com. And when you get there, you can click on the big orange Join Now button. Doesn't mean you're making a commitment, but you are checking out our membership, which, as I said before, hundreds of videos and step-by-step tutorials on all these aspects of traditional cooking, weekly menu plans, cute monthly meetings for members, just lots of stuff. I also do have a free video series that gives people a taste and some really stellar content on the fundamentals of traditional cooking. And that is gnowfglins.com/free. And it's really there. People can check it out, see if they resonate with our teaching style. If if it's like doing good things in their family, then of course they can go more. Okay. So that's where I'd recommend people start if you're interested.
You do realize you just said if people want a taste, they can go. You did it again. First, they're hungry for the information, and now you're saying if they want a taste, they can go over here. I think what you do, I'm probably not the only one who's listening to you right now going, wow. And inside there is a complete opportunity that could support my family. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. No one has a money problem. We have an idea problem, because you have taken an idea and turned it into something that supports. And I think you said you had staff and people. So now it's not just providing a solution or an income for your family. You're actually providing jobs for other people based upon this same concept and solving other people's problems and giving them access to how to make this a reality in their life. And for that, it is nothing but job well done. And I am blown away. I'm right now. You've got me wondering, what does, you're making it sound like I've never really tasted butter or ice cream and all these other things. And I was like, I wonder what her butter and ice cream and cakes take. Like they probably taste a little better. So anyway, I'm definitely glad that you've taken the time to invest with us here at the Cashflow Diary.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just been an honor.
Now, before I let you go, I want to know, what would you say to that person who's thinking about it? Maybe because, we can come up with some crazy ideas. We're sitting at our, you're sitting up late one night, you can't sleep, or you're dreading Sunday night because Monday morning is coming, or you've tried a business before, it didn't work out, or you're in the middle of a business and maybe you're thinking about another one and you think the idea is just too wacky to try. What would you say to that person who's feeling or thinking that right now?
Well, I would say you don't know until you start connecting with people. And there is absolutely no risk, no downside, and like very little cost. I mean, a few bucks a month to start a blog or start a podcast and start talking about what's on your heart. And if it's connecting with people, it's going to spread and you will get feedback, and you'll know just by the interaction whether there is material there that could be shared. I mean, that's just one test. It doesn't mean you couldn't just put something out there and see. But of course, before investing a lot of time or money into a product, you could just start a conversation, and that costs nothing. That's how I got my start. I mean, I had a family blog where I did crafts and things, but food was the thing that got people. And when I started talking about food, that's when we got some real conversations, real interest, started building an audience, and that turned into a product. And I was a stay-at-home mom. My husband was at work. I spent lots of time on it because I loved it. But it was just it was perfect. It just really worked out. And we don't live in a bubble. And sadly, maybe 99, let's say 80-20, it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of our ideas are going to go nowhere, but you don't know unless you put those 100 out there, which 20 are going to work,
Well said. Again, thank you for investing your time here with us at the Cashflow Diary. Okay, everybody, guess what? You know what it's time to do. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. I can't even begin to list for you the number of resources that were given to you in this particular episode. If you have an interest in feeling better, and we didn't get down the looking better, but I bet you probably look better if you start eating better food too. Go to these websites, and I can't pronounce the other one. I'm going to say go to traditionalcookingschool.com, because and I know that this is something that's been on your mind, and now is the time to go out there and take that next step. Take your ideas. It doesn't matter how wacky. I like what she said. It doesn't matter what you think. Just go out there and test them. Let the marketplace tell you. Let them give you feedback so that you can make the corrections necessary to move forward to the next step. Guys, it's been fun talking to you. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to all of you again soon. Until next time.